Welcome to another episode of Divided Films, the podcast where we talk about movies that audiences and critics do not agree on. With me, as always, is my co-host Keith.
Hello!
And today on the podcast, joining us for the first time, our good friend Christina Mazur. Welcome, Christina.
Hi. Hello. This is really exciting.
We've been waiting for the perfect movie to talk about with you, Christina, and that is why we brought you on for this movie. Today we're talking about The Greatest Showman, the 2017.
But is it...
Well, we'll see. If it's The Greatest Show or Showman. The 2017 musical film, directed by Michael Gracie and starring Hugh Jackman. This movie falls into the category of having a negative score from critics and a positive score from audiences. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 56% approval rating from critics, 86% from audiences, so 30% difference. That's a pretty deep divide there. And the critics' consensus for The Greatest Showman. The Greatest Showman tries hard to dazzle the audience with a Barnum-style sense of wonder, but at the expense of its complex subject's far more intriguing real-life story. Based off of that consensus, it seems like, the critics think that this might be like a missed opportunity for a more interesting exploration of someone's life, as opposed to what this is, which is basically like a very like glossed over sort of like musical fanfare. For me, this is my first time watching this movie. Have you guys seen this before? And did you expect this divide from this film? Start with Christina.
Yeah. If I were like 7, I would have loved this movie just for what it was as a movie. Growing up watching musicals, Disney and everything like that, this would have totally just, I would have wanted to watch it every single weekend. Being in my late 20s and understanding, character development and understanding how stories are told, especially in a musical outcome like that, it was very underwhelmed. Like, I remember seeing it and I wanted to see it in the movie theaters and I never got a chance to. So my friend was like, "Oh, I found it on Roku. Let's have a day and watch it." And I said, "Absolutely. We're so excited. We got our popcorn, we got our pizza. We were so excited to see this movie." And we sat there silent for maybe, what was it, like 2 hours?
The whole time?
And we just sat there like, if you could see my face, you can't, but I'm just kind of stoic in the sense of the fact that we literally got nothing in return for how excited we were. The music, Patrick and Paul, obviously it's going to be fantastic. You have Hugh Jackman, you have Keala Settle, you have like background voices of Natalie Weiss and like all these other like Broadway stars who are not even in the damn movie. Mm-hmm. Like, you have like the willpower of it being so good because of that alone. And then you watch it and you're like, what just happened? How did it happen? How did it happen like this? There's no backstory on any of the characters but P.D. Barnum. And even that wasn't even an accurate backstory.
No, in fact, a lot of things are really glossed over. And
yes.
At times things were happening so fast. I'm like, wait a minute, how did we get here? But
exactly.
Keith, what was your first take on The Greatest Showman?
I enjoyed it. This is my first time seeing it. I knew some of the music beforehand. It's hard not to like miss that in life. And I've had people tell me like, I really enjoyed this movie and I wasn't expecting it to. So I had no idea what I was going. I feel like there was stuff in my brain saying, "Oh, you shouldn't like this." But the louder voice was like, "Shut up. It's fun. They're giving it all they have." I enjoyed it, and there are actually some songs that I'm like that are stuck in my head.
They're banking on the songs. The songs. They even made a whole reimagined like CD with other like Kelly Clarkson and Sarah Bareilles, and like they're banking on the songs alone, and I think they know that.
This could have been like a really big hit like album if some of these were released as like by like an
singles.
Artist or something.
Yeah.
And I think the songs are probably the biggest strength for this movie because they are really catchy and really powerful, and they've like entered into like pop culture, right? So This Is Me is this really catchy like anthem that I feel like is really resonant in this day and age.
Yeah.
And then
Rewrite the Stars is my favorite.
Yeah,
I thought that was
Rewrite the Stars.
They're all. I mean, and then was it Never Enough? Was this like really powerful and beautiful song and performance that like even like maybe within the context of the movie, I feel like it wasn't that particularly like a moving scene, but the song itself was really moving.
She also wasn't an opera singer. Remember how they were like, "Oh, we're gonna go to the opera."
We're fine. Like
that's
fine.
not opera.
It's fine.
Well, no, that's just one person singing. That is an opera.
We watched a play. We watched. You went to the. We watched a play. I'm trying to think of other plays that have good character development. Hamilton doesn't even have like. And this is my first year watching Hamilton.
Be careful, Keith. You're gonna have a mob at your door.
No.
How dare you?
You better watch it.
Oh no.
You better watch it with Hamilton because I can watch that again.
I'm a theater kid at heart, and I know a lot of theater kids are like, "You're not like me," but I'm like, I'm a theater kid. There's a lot. You're not like me. That's a good.
You're not my dad.
That's what they chanted at you.
Like Hamilton moves so fast, and I understand it. It's a play.
Hamilton moves fast because there's a lot of history in rapping, and they had to put it all in one thing.
Like but you're watching a play. I wouldn't be surprised if The Greatest Showman, if and when Broadway returns, this will be a very popular play.
If it was a live show, and they took out bits and pieces and made a consecutive story within it, it would be a really good musical. Absolutely. And I think that they've tried to put too many stories in one story that they forgot about certain ones, because the dynamic of Zendaya and Zac Efron. And if you don't know, Zendaya is a trapeze like person with
cotton candy hair.
With cotton candy hair. And we don't know her backstory. Ready? We have no idea where her and her partner came from. All we know is that they auditioned to be part of this show. And they have a talent of like swinging on things. That's all we know.
Trapeze.
But then she catches the eye of Zac Efron, who's a partner in the show, like the partner of Hugh Jackman's character or whatever. And they just get a glimpse of each other and they're in love, right? Okay, whatever, that's normal. But there's a scene where they see the opera and he wants to take Zendaya's character to the opera, but his parents are there and they disapprove of this relationship, but we don't know why.
Because she's black, that's why.
Yeah, I got that.
Now I have to infer that's
the
why.
Stuff.
Literally
that's what plays do. That's what plays do. They really hammer I
have to think more and infer more of that. That's not what I was thinking. So, okay, leave it up to interpretation. Sure. Okay, maybe because she's black. But what if it was like maybe because she's part of the freak show, but to her parents, does his parents know that she's part of the freak show?
It's probably all sorts of things. I mean, they say the help. That's what they say. Like, you're with the help. And again, I feel like that has to be like the movie's like kind of weird way of making it about race without saying it, which I don't know why they don't just say it. But it was like, what, 1850, 1860? Like, of course, like an interracial relationship back then would be really taboo. So I at least assume that'd be the reason why.
I don't know. I think that that part went really quickly, so fast that like it just kind of like whooshed over someone's head.
Right.
Hey, no one's buying hats back here. Get out front. Go. WD, Ann, I want to introduce my newest hire, Mr. Philip Carlisle.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Yeah, pleasure.
And what is your act, Mr. Carlisle?
I don't have an act.
Everyone's got an act.
But then speaking of those characters, though, so like this cast is interesting. There's a lot of people in this movie, but like Zac Efron for me is like this actor who I feel like doesn't fit in this world. He just, I don't know. I feel like the only way they really try to make him feel part of the time period is by giving him sideburns. Everything else about him doesn't really feel that like 19th century to me.
He's too pretty boy. 2000's pretty boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like everything about him.
No, but
everything about him is like a more modern sense of like attractiveness, and I just feel like he sticks out like a sore thumb in this world.
This movie's not made for us guys. This movie's made for like 20 and younger, and who are like, hey, this is Zach's bread and butter. I think he's a fine actor, but I think it
brought people to see.
I think he
right. I think that's like a marketing.
I think he soars. As like this is his 5th musical, I believe. Like he knows the core. Like that dance that when they're drinking shots, even though they be friggin' hammered. Like by the end of that, I really enjoyed that.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Zac Efron didn't even sing in the first High School Musical, so we can't even count that.
Hey, when you're working 26 hours a day in a friggin' smelly gymnasium, I know there's only 24 hours in the day, but I bet they work those kids to the core. They know they know the choreography.
Kenny Ortega
from the producer and just making a movie standpoint, you're gonna get can we get the hottest young actors to play this subplot that never existed in real life? I'm totally okay with that. Like Zendaya stars, she just won an Emmy. She's gonna be in Dune. She's Mary J. Like she is the hot young rising star. Funny enough, her brother. It wasn't her brother partner. This movie was made in 2017. It came, Yahya Abdul Mateen. It's amazing to see. It's amazing to see his rise because he's only like a background. He's only like a.
He doesn't get a lot of.
And
lines
he just won an Emmy this year too. Like his star has risen. Like I just saw him in a movie just the other day, and he was a main role. So that made me laugh.
He's a very good actor. He's a very good actor, and I wish they gave him more to do in this movie, except for like kind of stare down Zac Efron one scene and then get into some fights. But the focus is for the most part on again P.T. Barnum and Hugh Jackman, and Hugh Jackman. He's kind of like the 20th Century Fox star child, right? Like he's been in so many of their productions, and I think he's really great in this. I think he's very charming. He also has roots in musical theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was Curly in Oklahoma.
And Valjean.
Jean Valjean.
In the movie production of Les Miserables.
Yeah, I thought he was good in that too. So, I from what I understand, this was kind of like he was part of the passion project of this, right? Like he was really passionate about getting this project off the ground and doing this role, which I find interesting because I didn't really know anything about P.T. Barnum or think if he had like an interesting story to tell before this movie came out. Like this movie comes out and I'm like, The Greatest Showman, a movie about P.T. Barnum, and I'm like, okay, like is that do we really know anything about him that's worth telling a story? And this movie doesn't really dive into what his real life story was, so I'm just curious, like, what exactly the idea was behind putting this together.
Would this movie have because this has been a major criticism. It's like in the critic consensus, a lot of critics go hard about like it doesn't tell like the true story. If he changed his name to J.T. Farnum or whatever, would this movie have been like it's just like loosely based on the life of P.T. Barnum? Would this movie have been? I don't know. I disagree. I disagree completely with the critics of like, who cares? Who cares?
Yeah. But if you think about it,
and I know I can expand upon that, but who cares? Go on.
But it's a testament to how American culture, gives information about history. Like, P.T. Barnum was not a good person, if you think about it. Like, he burnt down places to make his own freak show, first of all. Like, I know he wanted, like, a red tent top type, like, circus thing, make it, like, his life be different than what he grew up to be and all that kind of stuff. Yes, he had dreams and aspirations like every little person does, but going about it is always like the difficult task, right? But the way he goes about it, he's exploiting people with disabilities. Hi, I'm a special ed teacher. He's exploiting people with disabilities that, yes, at that time, we don't really know much about. Everyone was called a freak at that point. you're taking people with disabilities and deformalities and you're exploiting them for money.
Yeah.
Because that's the way that you want your reputation to be. Like, oh, look, I found these misfits and I'm giving them such a great life by giving them a job and they're entertaining people. You're putting people like essentially in like a zoo and you're having people look at these different types of people just because a person has PCOS and is bigger than most and has a beard as a woman.
No, I get like, what you're saying. Like, the movie almost tries to make it seem like, oh, he gave these people like a place of acceptance and a place, you know, like, but
except not.
No, you're right. I mean, I was thinking like, you know, I get a sense more that in real life it was more of exploitation than of like celebration of these people. And then not to mention, I mean, like, you know, the circus is like got a very like dark history, and if you want to maybe do more like, you know, like a documentary style into like the dark history of the circus. Or even
like a horror movie,
you could do that. You know, there's also, what was it, the 4th season of American Horror Story was Freak Show, right? And that kind of had the same archetypes of like the bearded lady and like the world's fattest man and all that kind of stuff. And again, like in this movie, it's like, okay, we're just doing like a stylized version of what happened. And it's just like this like musical experience that it's not going to really have any dark undertones, fine. But it's just, you know, in this day and age, we do know a lot that there was like animal cruelty and exploitation in the circus. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to forget that when you're watching. It's like, oh, this is the circus, and it's so great, and it's just like a place of wonder and amazement. Right. Curiosities, as like the euphemism he used to describe people with the, you know, the abnormalities. And, you know, it's just like a little odd to me. To try to like make people forget that, because we know too much nowadays about how dark that whole history was.
And like, but like what I was saying before is like, that's how we tell stories about history in America. It's like, let's give you like kind of the dumbed down version of it, and then you can try and figure it out on your own later. But now we're going around and like little kids are seeing this movie, and I'm not trying to tell little kids like, this is the truth about P.T. Barnum. He was actually a really terrible man, exploited a lot of people just like you. But like, I don't know, like, I get where it's coming from. And Keith, I see your argument. I was like, no one gives a shit. It's a movie. Like, I get it. To me, just the movie in general with like the crappy character development also kind of got to me.
well, here's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, this movie isn't trying to do a deep dive. So like, yeah, I for the critics to kind of criticize it, like, why didn't you dive deeper into P.T. Barnum? Like, well, this is like a high energy, upbeat musical, so it's not going to explore those dark undertones. Like, I know I was just going on this whole thing about, you know, you can't really gloss it over because we all know, but at the same time, the idea of this movie is to do like a stylized musical just with this as like, you know, taking this guy's life. Like, let's take P.T. Barnum, just turn his life into a musical. Like, I guess you could do that about a lot of things, but the idea of the setting of the circus lends itself to a style of fanfare anyway. So I kind of get like the conception, maybe I answered my own question, the conception of, okay, let's take like this setting, make that into a musical in the spirit of old-fashioned Hollywood musical films. That I kind of was getting a sense of, that this is trying to tap into that
Roger
old Hollywood
Hammerstein
tradition
and all that, but just, like, and they didn't use animals. All those animals were CGI. Look, I'm not gonna give them points for. I mean, I'll give them points for, hey, the animals are CGI.
No animal cruelty is always worth points. But you get like a lot of things like, you know, the backdrops, like in the beginning when they're on the rooftop, you know, like those backdrops are really cheesy, but that was the style. That's the point. Like, the whole idea is to kind of feel, I guess, kind of like a set in motion. So this the style of this movie, what they were trying to achieve in style, I think they nailed it. You know, and that's the thing. Critics don't like a movie that's all style and not a lot of narrative heft.
I'm still coming back to, if the only issue is a name change, and then people like wouldn't have a problem with this movie, then I don't think that's really much to hang on. I do agree. P.T. Barnum is an awful human being in real life. And if they ever do make a documentary or a movie about him. It should be a horror biopic. But this isn't that.
Yeah.
This is on Disney Plus. This is made for kids.
Yeah,
and like I don't want to. I don't like if a kid is watching this, you don't. That's like it's like someone discovering Beatles for the first time, and then you're the guy at the party going like, let me tell you about John Lennon, and we all and I've seen enough Onion articles, and enough people have told that guy at parties to shut up about John Lennon's backstory. And if we're allowed to say that, if we're allowed to make fun of that guy, like they're making an Elvis movie next year with Tom Hanks. It's going to be Baz Luhrmann. It's going to be a big production. It's going to be a big production. Yeah. And you could say Elvis. You can equally say Elvis Presley did some amazing music while also dating a 14. Like he did some really sketchy things.
Because she's only 14.
I don't think this was their intention to do they only, even like the affair. If that woman could come back, and there was no affair. If the woman could come back, it's just like, yeah, we shook hands once. Like I think people are smart enough to either know the history, to look it up, and also if someone to be like, hey, P.T. Barnum was this kind of guy. Some people can either go like, ho, know your history, my chap. And
then you have a student that I tutored who was doing like a 7-month project on any topic that they chose during a certain time, century of time. And she did it on Big Top Circus with Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. And she's like, oh, well, I could just watch The Greatest Showman, and that is my report. I said, no, you cannot. You absolutely cannot watch The Greatest Showman, and that's your report, because that's nothing even close to what this person was.
I think that's fair.
But I'll just watch the movie. That's a classic
I'll just watch
trope.
a movie. But now you have a 13-year-old kid saying, oh, I'll just watch The Greatest Showman. But now you have to educate that kid saying, no, this was
you're an educator, though. That's excellent. That's a 13-year-old learning a new fact.
Yeah, but is she going to listen?
Then you'll fail her. Then you'll fail her. No, I'm serious.
See, that's a classic folly of who do you blame? The movie or the audiences? Because, there's always been that debate about, you can't trust audiences to discern fact from fiction. It's well, maybe you should. Maybe people should be smart enough to try to think about a movie.
The key word there is "should" there, JJ.
But I think there's been I think musicals, historical musicals especially, tend to get whitewashed. Les Mis is a great Hamilton, and those are 10 out of 10 for me. And I just think that if people are going to harp on the historical aspect, that's fine. I've seen enough criticisms about the character development and all that. I'm I could totally understand someone not digging this movie. But if you're going to come to me you can't like this movie because P.T. Barnum was an asshole, I'm going to be well, let me give you a whole list of things that were made by people who were assholes. That did not stop my brain from going, you're enjoying this. Have fun. Enjoy the ride.
Why do you care what they think?
It's not just them. You never had somebody look at you the way your parents looked at me. The way everyone would look at us.
You know I want you. It's not a secret I try to hide. I know you want me. So don't keep saying our hands are tied. You claim it's not in the cards. Fate is pulling you miles away and out of reach from me. But you're here in my heart, so who can stop me if I decide that you're my destiny? What if we rewrite the start?
I do have to say, I really enjoyed the musical numbers. I felt like they had so much energy, and they were a pleasure to watch. you could tell a lot of effort went into them. Musically, choreography, like it was, it all looked really great and it sounded great. I just thought it was interesting that it was decidedly like what's the term, like anachronistic, or like like in terms of the style of the song and dancing is very modern, right, as opposed to the time period setting,
right.
Which like that's not the first musical to do that. It's, I mean, you could do maybe like a more classical sounding musical like a Rodgers Hammerstein, which does not take you out of the time period, but this was decidedly more like modern pop sort of sound. And I don't know, did that work for you? I felt like at times it worked for me, and at times it didn't. Like just seeing them do the dancing in the circus for like the 19th century audiences who are like kind of singing along to modern music. I don't know. It worked and it didn't work, depending on the scene for me.
They brought in the powerhouse team of what are their names? Benj, Pasek, and Paul, like who like they won the Oscar for La La Land. They worked. They worked. Dear Evan they did a lot of plays, and they flew them in and said, we need the music, and these guys basically wrote This Is Me on the flight there. That's how genius they are. Like I think that doesn't, I mean, you're getting a flashy movie. You're basically getting a circus.
You know what it reminded me of, actually? I was kind of getting, especially in the beginning, a very like Moulin Rouge sort of vibe. I mean, the time period is not that different, right? Maybe it takes place 50 years before Moulin Rouge takes place. And, again, you're getting like modern music in like this 19th century setting in a very like stylized sort of, sort of way of filming. So, I kind of, and that was also 20th Century Fox. So I was at the very beginning. I kind of got that vibe, and that's another movie that I don't think it's divided on Tomatoes, but I know Moulin Rouge is a movie that people either love or hate. So this seems to maybe getting the same sort of reaction.
Yeah, I think also I have to come to terms with exactly what Keith said before. Like, this is just entertainment, and like I'm just the type of person that pinpoints everything and picks out everything. Like little idiosyncrasies can kind of like ruin it for me, right? So I'm focused on the character development. I don't know where certain people came from all of a sudden, right. And now we have more freaks than we had in the audition process. And now is it like I know the backstory of how to like I've been in enough like school music productions and stuff like that I know like, okay, just add a couple people here and it'll look like there's a lot of people here and all that kind of stuff. Like, we need an ensemble, so just like
get the janitor out here.
You in the back, and you're gonna come over here. You get the janitor. Yeah, exactly. So
that's
like,
funny.
I get that. Like, I think because you know the ins and outs of a lot of like theater, that you're like, okay, no, I see what they're doing here or whatever. And you forget to just sit back and enjoy it for what it is, and you just forget to kind of do like, oh, this is a really nice ensemble number. Like, I grew up dancing and doing like all this kind of stuff, so I get it. So yeah, I think with the cross-century type connection to it is very interesting. Exactly what you said, JJ, about Moulin Rouge. I kind of got that vibe too. Like, they're trying to like, they know their audience, they know the people that wrote the music, they know like who's going to end up liking this musical, and kind of forget that they're in this like 18th century whatever time period until they see the costumes, and even the way they talk is not of that century. It's very modern, super in that sense.
Again, like they add like little touches of like somewhat Victorian era speak, but it's for the most part very modern.
But do we want to see that movie? I don't want to see like. I mean, I think actually Hugh Jackman could pull it off with Oklahoma, but I don't really like. This is the greatest show. He's like singing to sunrise, like
right. This is the greatest.
No, I mean, like I said, I think it does work. I think it does work for the most part, but like the little moments of like. Again, the 19th century circus audience singing back. I'm like, oh, that looks really funny.
And they're like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's kind of like...
And I'm like, I don't think anyone shimmied their shoulders back then.
Yeah,
I think they were waving little fans and kind of like...
Christina,
dragging their fingers and all that.
I feel like you related a lot to the critic character in this movie. Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
It's not
definitely.
art.
It's not art if it's not accurate. No, that's not true. I don't know. I just, like I said, I think I hyped myself up to really liking this musical because everything that I saw of it, I was like, oh my God, I love musicals. Like, I love, you know, I like Basketball. I like what they've done. I really love La La Land too. So I was like really excited for this to be something even more, right? And I don't know. I just sat there in silence and just kind of like, well, that was anticlimactic, very underwhelming. And
well, maybe
I'm not going to lie and say that I don't listen to the music all the time because I do.
That's probably the best takeaway is the music. I know I'll be listening to the soundtrack, you know, 'cause the songs are catchy. But yeah, maybe, you know, it's tough because expectations can really affect, you know, your viewing experience. So, you know, your expectations were really high, and this is a genre you really love. So you probably like have a higher bar for this kind of movie than maybe other kinds of films, right? And this is attracting, you know, fans like you. This movie is geared towards, you know, musical theater fans as well. As much as it maybe tries to get more general audiences, I think general audiences probably would, you know, more likely give this a thumbs up than specifically like musical theater geeks like us.
Well, this is probably why I'm going to probably mention this a lot, but Hamilton was so successful on Disney Plus because, modern audiences do not get to fly out to New York to see a $300 show. And it was also very well filmed. But I think, people want, like, this movie did exceedingly well. This movie was popular. And so people like the idea of going to a play/movie. Maybe not all of them, but I think this one was so. You got the charismatic lead of. I think Hugh Jackman really kind of just you could see this was his passion project.
Oh yeah, he was really living it.
What I appreciate about it too is that like it is. Yeah, I know it's loosely based on like, you know, this guy's life, but for the most part, it is like an original musical film. And in this day and age, so many things that we get, especially from Disney, are like made either a remake or based on something, you know, like I feel like this is actually maybe more of a creative risk to come up with something totally original that like, you know, you don't have the appeal of it based off of something else. So at least you get like, you know, new music that you hadn't heard before and like just something completely new that we haven't had. So
that's why it took 9 years. It took 9 years like to really be in development. Because the studio was like, we don't know how this is going to do.
Yeah, if anything, like when this movie was first announced, I was like confused. I'm like, they're making this kind of movie right now? Because we like never get these kind of movies anymore.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna usually when like a big studio invests a lot of money nowadays, it's on something that is like way more of like a guaranteed.
And this movie was
success.
Supposed to bomb too because it was made for $84 million and it came out around, if not the same day as The Last Jedi. And
I knew it was like a holiday
word of mouth.
film.
This movie, the word of mouth of it just got like, I think it was like #1 until January, February. Like in terms of, it was always in like the top 5. I know Last Jedi, not to go into it, it went down. Greatest Showman went up in terms of like word of mouth.
I can see this maybe having like maybe a cult following down the line. Again, of people who really love the music and people who like appreciate this specific style. I mean, I have to say, as much as I was kind of like being critical before, I think overall my experience was positive. And if anything, like, you know, there are like little funny. The movie, like a lot of times the plot is very rushed, but for me, I kind of get a kick out of that. Like, you know, all of a sudden there were animals in this circus. Like, where did you get these elephants from? Like, all of a sudden, like, you know, you don't really see that. Or even the very beginning, I had to laugh because that first number, like, things are happening so fast with this guy's life, and they're just trying to get through it. Like, when he works at
come alive,
when he works at that job, like whatever clerk job that was, and the guy is like, we're bankrupt, all our ships sank, and I was like, what? Like, all your ships sank? I don't understand. And then it's just like, next scene. Like, okay, all your ships sank. Like little moments like that, if anything, kind of boosted for me because it's like a little curious little things. I feel like a lot of people just like accept and move on, like they don't care. But I'm like, wait a second, like what did you just say? Like I don't know. I kind of go back for like funny.
That's
little,
what I
like,
love about
like
plays,
that.
just how quick, like Wicked. It's just like we hate each other. One song will cure all that. Like,
oh, that was at the end too. Like this guy has pissed off everybody. Like he lost his home. His wife is leaving him. The circus people are mad at him for neglecting him. And it just took that one song in the bar, you know, and they're immediately on board, right? It's
from no.
How's the song like No More or something like that? And it's like, yeah, no more. And then they do like this like big dance number. And it's
from
like
now on, it was like that weird country song that they had in there, like doodle 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 doodle.
Yeah,
and then they like all got in. They were like, yeah, I guess I'm gonna join, and they're like starting to dance.
Yeah,
and I was like, what the fuck?
It was very quick. But then that's again like kind of like the style of a lot of like, you know,
despite these people's disabilities, like, they really know how to dance. They know how to break dance. They know how to like.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious too, like what exactly some of these people's like curiosities were, so to speak. Like, okay, you have like the tallest guy, the fattest guy,
the shortest guy,
forth. But then you also kind of just
yeah,
you did.
Who I didn't know could sing. That I didn't know that was him singing in "This Is Me" that one line.
It seemed like,
I thought it was Keala Settle.
It looked like a lot of his lines were dubbed.
Yeah,
okay, that's what I thought. But like some of the other people, especially in that one like number towards the end, I'm like, there's these two people who are just like all in white. Are they like albinos? I guess. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, what?
Also, where did they come
from? But like, what is?
No, I'm saying like they were not at the original audition process. Those were the extras that the producers were like, okay, add more people in.
See, like that's the thing where I'll kind of be like, okay, I'm on board. Like I assume as the show got more popular, like they recruited more people into the show. Like I kind of will buy that. Like
they need dancers.
Time,
they need like those like the people that can actually like, you know, Broadway choreography dance. Like they need those.
Right, but like I'm just trying to say, like some of these like quote unquote like I don't want to say freaks, but like some of these people were like what is their thing? Like some of them just have weird hair. Like I don't really even know what.
And it's so funny because there's that one like ensemble part where they're the Come Alive, I think it is the song or whatever, and they go into like the what do they call it? Like the ring, I guess, like this whatever.
Yeah.
And they're doing that line dance, and I almost thought they were gonna break out into Thriller. Because they were doing a lot. I was like, okay, I guess they're gonna break out into Thriller now.
Yeah, kind of the same sort of like setup.
Yeah,
the same energy.
They just like end up all in like that one, like, you know, everyone get into a window and then they're all start.
I will agree with you on one thing, Christina. Like I do think that, you know, when it comes to like the script, the dialogue, it's very like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like watching a play. I'll say that. Like I don't really put a lot of investment in any musicals dialogue that's not music. Yeah, because it's always like, you know, I'm sorry. It's always mood whiplash. Like I'm sorry. It's very fast.
Yeah.
It's very fast.
It's very
and
fast.
yeah, no, it's like watching a play. Like how a play is made in reverse. You get the movie first, and it'll soon become a play on Broadway when that comes back.
I mean, I imagine they probably even like thought of like songs before they even thought of like the dialogue that goes in between. But I feel like that's the style of musicals of like the old Broadway. I feel like nowadays though, in the last like 10 years, you've gotten more nuanced musicals on Broadway that actually do invest more in dialogue. But those aren't like the super showy musicals. Those are maybe like the more like
the
inventive ones, like say like Next to Normal or something.
Yeah, or Hadestown or anything like that.
Yeah, so like, you know, music like this is definitely like the older form of Broadway, which I also enjoy that. But it's nice, you know, nowadays you can have actually like that blend of really good dialogue and character development with really good numbers. It's just not going to be like a big fanfare. It's more of just like, you know, maybe more like a smaller, you know, a smaller orchestra, you know, more contemplative kind of music. So like take your pick. You can have both.
Can we? Can we?
As I can.
Yeah, no, I think that's
can.
yeah. It's nice it's nice to get that old. It's nice to get that old school, like old Roger and Hammerstein style. And
that's what I'm saying. it's almost a lost art in a way to have these, you know, old school film musicals, because that was like, you know, something that people still enjoy today, like, right? Like, people enjoy watching those kind of movies with their families, you know, Sound of Music and, you know, Singing in the Rain.
This came out during the right time. This is a Christmas movie. This is a movie you watch with family around the holidays. This is a good date Friday night movie.
Yeah.
Like, if it's your favorite and you want to watch all the time, go ahead. It's all right. It's fun.
Yeah.
And it fits like the structure of like a lot of classic films, right? You have, you know, like the fourth act when everything's down and sad, and then, you know, towards the end he has to redeem himself and everything's good at the end. I also got a kick out of like, you know, when the building's burnt down and Zac Efron's like, you know, we can't afford a building, and then Hugh Jackman's like, maybe we don't need a building, maybe a tent. And I'm like,
my friends, is how the tent was born.
How like the circus tent came to be. Like, if I had to write a parody of like this kind of story, that is actually the kind of like, you know, scene I would have. It's like, oh, we don't have a building, maybe a tent. That's how it came to be. So it's just silly.
And then the narrator in the background's like, and ladies and gentlemen, that is how the tent is born.
I drank champagne with kings and queens. The politicians praised my name. But those were someone else's dreams, the pitfalls of the man I became. For years and years, I chased their cheers, a crazy speed of always needing more. But when I stop and see you here, I remember who all this was for. And from now on.
Can you imagine if they tried to film this like they filmed Les Mis, where they're singing while they're filming? Like, it would have, like, you know, it would have been.
Is that nuts? I always forget about that fact, and every time I watch it, I'm like, I forget that they like shot this live.
Yeah, like the singing it live instead of traditionally.
Isn't that nuts?
When did you guys first know, like, growing? Because like when you were a kid, didn't you think like in every musical, like they sing as they film it? Like when you were little, like when did you first find out that pretty much every musical movie they dub in the singing later on?
When I would hear the person sing in real life.
Okay, I'm like I'm
that's
saying like
when I was like,
what age I was gonna say, like, because I feel like I was like maybe 12 or 13 when I first learned that, and it like blew my mind. I'm like,
I think I was around that age too, because I think that's when I found out. Because, I mean, all right, so my first, I guess, movie musical that I watched at a young age, I'm not like including Disney because that's a completely different thing, was Rent in 2005. And I think, because I watched like older musicals and stuff, but I didn't really like, you know, put two and two together. But like Rent, I think was my first one that I can really like have a recollection of figuring out whether they were singing live or it was a kind of recorded beforehand. Because I listened to the soundtrack of the movie and I was like, that sounds very accurate
it's like perfect
to what the movie was. And I was like, and then you can see like, and then as I would rewatch the movie, I'm like, I don't think they're like you could see that they're singing. They probably sang while filming, but you can tell that it was like dubbed in afterwards. And then like other little like shows, I think also Glee is when I realized, I was like, oh, they freaking recorded it beforehand.
Well, because like especially when they go from dialogue to singing, there's like a distinct like difference in like the sound. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I might have realized this much younger because I always grew up watching like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and there is like a moment I think during Veruca Salt's song where like it really is off at one point, and I think at that age I might have like realized like, oh wait a second, like
I'm just finding out right
doesn't
now.
look right. Sorry to ruin that for you, Keith.
I could
just imagine a young Christina with a notepad, like.
Oh no, I wasn't that precise, but I was definitely like, I think like obviously it came to like a thought that like, okay, they probably recorded this and like lip sync throughout the thing, But I think it really made it evident was when I started watching Glee in like high school, and I was like, they freaking. You could totally see, like they probably sang while filming, but like definitely dubbed over. Yeah. Well, just based off of like I know Leah Michele and like she's overreacting. Like I could just tell.
Whoa, throwing shade.
Come out of her mouth.
Throwing shade to Leah Michele. We're naming names, folks.
The other thing too I wanted to mention, like the circus. I think I only went to like once when I was like in kindergarten or something, and I don't think I really liked it that much. Do you guys? I mean, like, do you guys have like an affinity for like the circus? Because this movie, I get it. Like in the 19th century, like this,
this was entertainment.
Yeah, this could be like a big form of entertainment. But like, they still had the circus. I don't know if it was even still going on right before COVID, but like there was still like a circus going around. I always thought like. Why is there still a circus in like this?
They closed the Ringling Brothers.
When did they
the
close
Big Top Circus is.
They closed it around the time this movie came out. Actually,
ended.
Okay, that's why. But like not up until recently though. I always thought, and they still build themselves as like the greatest show on earth.
Yeah.
Well, what do they call? Like if you're gonna,
I used to go.
They're not gonna be like the we used to be the greatest show on earth.
Formerly known as the greatest show on earth.
We're humble.
Right. We're moderate.
Do you guys have like?
We're subpar.
But do you guys have fond memories of like going to the circus?
God. My parents try to as a kid, obviously we had to be constantly entertained. My parents tried to find everything under the book in like Central Jersey to help us get we went to malls. Like that was like our growing up like entertainment. We went to malls and Discovery Zone.
Yeah. So same. Yeah.
Yeah, and every year around the spring, my elementary school would host a circus in like the parking lot, like the field area or whatever. And it was like free admission for like students or something like that. Maybe like a couple bucks for like whoever. So they would take us, and all I remember of the circus at a young age is the smell of animals' crap and how disgusting it was.
How much you loved it.
They gave us a coloring book with like 4 crayons and cotton candy and one particular clown that was bald and had a tiny hat on the side of his head. Ugh. And he would go around and just give kids things. And I was terrified of this clown. I could not watch the show. I was very unsettled of every sensory overload that was happening in that moment, and I would just be very like fidgety and agitated. And my mom's like, to my dad, I distinctly remember this, we can never do this ever again. We can never do this ever again.
For the best.
And my dad's like, I agree.
Yeah.
We are never doing this ever again.
Well,
I think we went twice.
I'm kind of grateful that this movie did not include clowns, because I think a lot of people, when they think of the circus, they think of clowns. And I think that also was like a big thing a much bigger thing than it is now.
And it was like
the 19th century.
The circus I went to was like a club. Like they turned out all the lights. They had like strobe lights and like all this other kind of stuff. They gave away like those like, what are those highlighter like necklaces things, like the light stick things.
You snap them and they turn on.
Yeah, they gave away those. They had like loud music. I was so frightened as a child. Yeah. It was so much. And my mom was sitting there like, I gotta get out of here. Yeah. Like it was not comfortable or a fun experience.
I remember like the Meadowlands, right? Like by where the Giants and Jets play. There's the arena there. They always had
that's
the
where we saw
there,
them.
like,
my family and I saw them.
Long.
Yeah.
That's where I saw them. Yeah, I think it was like a field trip in kindergarten. Like they took us to the circus, and we did not have a good time. I think
like Cirque du Soleil is a better like atmosphere.
That's like the modern circus, which is like much more like artistic and
one walk for I mean, I'm not going to defend the. I really don't remember my time at the circus. I remember going. I must have gone to like Disney on Ice and all that, just because when I remember for a yard sale we found all those like you hit this button and it lights up and spins. So I'm like, I must have got like I must have got like like you, Christina, this 3-year-old's running around like he let's bring him to something. But yeah, like Cirque du Soleil you know, I guess the circus walked so Ringling Brothers could run, or no, so Cirque du Soleil could run.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. It was like an evolution
they're
of that.
French. And they're French, European, like whatever.
This is the greatest show.
You know they're good. You know, like you know that they're. This is the greatest show.
Instead of clowns,
we are going to rewrite this song.
Put it back on my head.
Now we're gonna have the French knocking down our doors. So just be prepared for that.
I am French, so they can. It's fine.
And instead of clowns, they have mimes, which I think I would take a mime over a clown.
That's art. It's an artistic clown.
Yeah, although I would just throw them both over the boat.
Fair enough.
Our ships are our sunk.
So I'm just thinking if there's any other aspect of this movie we haven't touched on yet. I mean, all the other cast members, like Michelle Williams, I think is like
she's a good actress movie, right? Too.
Like,
she just always is in these roles that just make her. I'm like, I guess she's always a star on television, but she always she's a really good actress, and I'm like, it's not that another actress could have played this. I'm just like, she was good, but I'm like, oh, you deserve better. And I'm always in Michelle Williams' corner.
I'm trying to think of who else would have been like a good person for her role too.
Yeah, because the part, maybe you could have given this to like maybe like a newcomer or something, because the part, like, you're right, like Michelle Williams is very talented, and she doesn't really need to do that much in this part. Like, I thought she did a good job of being, like, a sympathetic character, you know? Like, I buy that she's in love with you know, P.T. Barnum, and that, you know, she's sad when he's away and all that stuff. I cared about her character, so that's as much as, like, she can do, really, in that part.
If I had to take a guess, with the budget being the way it is, and Hugh Jackman being as enthusiastic and charismatic, it's like, Michelle, I'm going to do an Australian accent. I want you to be my wife in this movie. We'll give you $9 million. You get, and she's like, oh yeah, this is gonna be this is probably gonna be
an accent, by the way.
And
that's not that.
I am Wolverine, not a dingo. Now we're gonna get the Australians and French people.
This is our most controversial episode to date.
Yeah.
No,
we're bringing in all the.
But
culture.
it seems like the audience is at 86% and doing a deep dive. I think the ones that you got the hardcore fans that just love watching this movie. The songs are still stuck in their heads.
I have coworker, like my high school that I work at, they have like over the top, that's not a pun, pep rallies. And one year it was The Greatest Show, and they literally did like a whole homage to The Greatest Showman. And they used songs from The Greatest Showman in their pep rally. Even the marching band the next year did The Greatest Show as like their marching band show, and they took songs from it. I was like, so we get it. We like it.
A lot.
Music, it was very quick to like enter into the pop culture. So like even before I really knew, some of these songs I didn't even know came from this movie. You know, maybe like down the line there'll be people who only really know the songs, and then when they'll explore the movie, it'll be like, oh, that's what this is from, you know, that kind of thing.
Right. I believe This Is Me was nominated for an Oscar for Best Song.
I can see that.
But I did see a lot of comments that echoed Christina's like exact feedback and criticism. No, I completely understand someone. I don't know how you can hate this movie, but I can totally see like, it's just not my. With all the musicals out there, it's just not your thing.
I didn't hate it. I
know you didn't.
Say it out there, like I didn't hate it. I was
critical,
underwhelmed. That's exactly what I would say about it.
This is for you.
What will you be doing?
Watching my girls grow up. The show must go on.
I think we've now reached the point where maybe we can give our own personal scores for The Greatest Showman. I feel like we might be a little all over the board on this one, so I'm very curious. But Christina, as our guest, start us off. What percentage score would you give to The Greatest Showman?
Overall score, I would probably give it like. I think I would give it like a 70%. I think that's fair.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What about you?
I didn't know what to expect with this movie. If the major criticism of it is the historical inaccuracy, I think that doesn't really land well with me. And I had a lot of fun. I had an expected amount of fun. And 73.
Yeah, maybe we're not as all over the board as I thought we would be then. Because I was also thinking in that range. I think I might give it the highest score. I think I'm gonna give it a 76.
Wow.
Yeah, just overall, as critical as I was before, I think overall I really enjoyed myself watching this, and yeah, it's not far from perfect by any means. Definitely, like narratively, that's like the weakest aspect of it. And if your criticism is again like the historical inaccuracies, I'm trying to think where do you draw the line? Who can you and who can't you kind of make like a glossed over musical, base, like who can't you base a musical off of? Like
we cannot do a musical of Hitler and gloss over
well,
everything.
Given.
The producers did the producers kind of leaned into that.
Springtime
no
for
Stalins, no Hitlers, no.
Springtime for Hitler is a classic, but
yeah,
I think we all know that, right? Like that's also, like the far end of the spectrum. Like we know not to do that. But I'm saying like P.T. Barnum, like is he close to that line? Is he someone that you shouldn't make a sort of stylized gloss over musical based on? That's like I think the key question. And I don't know. If you want to say he's a terrible person, fine. But I don't think he was like that objectionable, like or anything controversial that it's like gonna offend people today. Besides just maybe he just wasn't nice to some people. I don't know.
Also, for a first-time director, Michael Gracie, you did a pretty good job.
First-time directing. I mean, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to add that.
Yeah, that is impressive because this is a big production.
Yeah, it was
a
very big
well. The story,
production.
him and Hugh Jackman, him and Hugh Jackman did a commercial, and they really got along well. And Hugh Jackman's like, "We should make a movie together, mate." And Michael Gracie, Michael Gracie literally was like, you're just, that's fun. You're just kidding. I feel honored for you to even say that. And then. A couple weeks later, he got the script to The Greatest Showman. He's like, "Oh, Hugh was being serious."
Oh, you were serious.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think.
Guess I'm doing this. Now.
I think for a first time out, I think the scores that we give it are pretty good for a first time director.
Yeah.
We are officially on The Greatest Showman. We are officially siding with the audience. So, we would be in that crowd of 19th century fans singing along.
Right. Shimming our shoulders.
To This Is Me.
Get a good haircut.
With sideburns.
Yeah,
so,
that's it.
Thank you, Christina.
I'll have the cotton candy hair.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. That was a wig, because she, okay.
I know.
I can work that hair, too.
I can work that hair.
All right. Well, thank you, Christina, for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Having you on, and
this is exciting.
We'd like to have you on again another time. But until then, join us again another time, guys, for another Divided Film. Thanks a lot. Bye.